We are already 1 month into the 2025 season, and while it got off to a rough start for the Atlanta Braves, they were able to survive that stretch. We'll take a look back on everything that happened in the month of April and take a peek ahead to what's in store in the month of May. All that on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. If you're new and watching this on YouTube, please stop what you're doing real quick. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and leave me a comment down below. And if you're listening on the audio version, you can help out by leaving me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day throughout the 2025 baseball season, which is now 1 month in the books. It's kind of hard to believe, but we're already 1 month through the season. It does truly go by quickly, so try to enjoy it as best you can, the ups and the downs and everything in between, which was the month of April. And we're going to talk about it all, the highs, the lows, talk about individual performances, team performances, where they ultimately wound up after a very rough start to the season. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com to get 50% off your first year. Well, in the month of March, April, we'll count the month of March in here as well. The couple of games they played there in San Diego. The Braves wind up with a 14-16 record, third place in the NL East, 6.5 games back with a hot start from the New York Mets. You look at that 14-6 record, clearly not where you want to be. But when you consider the fact that this group started 0-7, pretty great accomplishment. The fact that they were able to get to that type of record, and had they not fallen asleep on Wednesday afternoon against the Rockies, they could have gotten all the way back to 500. But instead, 14-16 first month of the season, not too bad. Again, when you consider the 0-7 start, they were 14-9 after that. They won their last 5 series in a row for the month. And look, we knew going in, I had a question in one of my mailbags in the offseason. What would you be worried about in the first month of the season, knowing that it was going to be a tough schedule ahead? And I said anything less than 12 wins, I'd be concerned. And there was a point I didn't think we were going to get the 12 wins. And I said that I was thinking that it would probably be 16-17 wins that I thought they could get to. Instead, it was right in the middle at 14. So again, not the best of outcomes, not the worst of outcomes in the first month of the season, but we all knew it could be a tough start for this Braves team when you consider they're going to be out without Strider and Acuna for the first month of the season. You actually got a lot less than Strider than we thought we were going to get, as he made one start and then went right back on the injured list. So you still were out without your 2 best players. Not to mention, you lost Joe Jimenez in the offseason. You didn't replace him in the bullpen, and we knew that could be an issue coming in. You get 1 start from Ronaldo Lopez, and Sean Murphy was injured to begin the season. So you had 5 key players that were either completely absent or partially absent in the first month, and you had a pretty tough schedule to start, a tough road schedule. You've already had 2 West Coast trips, so you knew this was going to be it could be a pretty shaky start for the Atlanta Braves. And through that all, they were still able to weather the storm and survive it and not let things completely get away from, which it looked like it might there in the first half of the month. But they're able to settle down, like I said, win those last 5 series, get a sweep of Minnesota at home, which was big. And now they put themselves in a pretty good position going into the month of May. That's not to say it still wasn't a very frustrating month and start to the season, because look, while you knew it was going to be a tough road trip to start, you can't go 0-7, and you just win 2 of those games. And imagine how better your record looks. You had the series in Toronto where you won the first game of that one and then let the next 2 get away with Schwellenbach and Strider on the mound. You had the 3rd game in Colorado, the worst team in baseball this year, and you weren't able to complete the sweep because you had a lazy afternoon game and kind of a rough performance by the offense. So again, still some frustration in that first month, things that they certainly could have done better, but overall they survived it. And you're hoping you get some players back. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to lose some along the way, but you are expected to get some really good players back to your rotation and lineup that could help you going forward. Now, first, we're going to take a look at the team stats from the first month of the season, break it down by offense and pitching. And then in the second segment, we'll look at some of the individual performances. So I'm going to throw a lot of stats and numbers at you here, so just bear with me. These are the Braves' overall offensive stats for the season right now, counting the games in March and through the month of April. The Braves were 14th in OPS, 14th in batting average, 14th in on-base percentage. So right there in the middle of the pack for the main average numbers. They were 17th in runs scored, 10th in home runs, 23rd in stolen bases, 19th in doubles, 15th in walks, and had the 16th fewest strikeouts. So you look at it on the whole for the first month, and the Braves were very middle of the road offense, top 15-ish type of offense. Now, you look at it after the 0-7 start, and things are much better for the Atlanta Braves. They are first in batting average since that 0-7 start. They're sixth in OPS, sixth in on-base percentage, scored the 11th most runs, 7th most home runs, 16th in walk percentage, and the 13th best strikeout rate, and the 7th best WRC plus. So since that 0-7 start, they've been a top 7, top 8 offense in all of baseball. Now, you can't just take away games like that. And those games were against really good teams that you're going to have to beat and compete against in order to get where you want to this year. So they're going to have to find ways to beat some of the better teams, the better pitching staffs in baseball. But, it was the first series. It was a West Coast trip, all of that, excuses, caveats that you can put in there. And after that, it started to look more like the offense that they can be. And I still think there's the improvement even in that. I mentioned yesterday, talked about the day games versus night games, which David O'Brien posted on his account on X. You want to go back and take a look at that, but the Braves have been much better in night games, and day games have absolutely killed them so far this season. You look at runners in scoring position because it's a stat that we all were hyper focused on for most of the first month of the season. The Braves finished the month 15th in batting average with runners in scoring position. So they came around a lot on that to be league average. And then that 8th inning, we saw it all month with this Braves team. We'll see if it continues, but they were first in batting average in the 8th inning, second in runs scored, and second in OPS in the 8th inning, only to the Arizona Diamondbacks. And then with 2 strikes, another stat that we've talked about a lot and looked at a lot, and something I wanted to focus on because this team has been more patient. There has been an approach change that has allowed them to go deeper into counts. But if you don't know how to hit with 2 strikes, it doesn't really do much good. And they were 19th in batting average with 2 strikes. So if they are going to take this more, or rather less aggressive approach at the plate, got to do better with 2 strikes and having a better 2-strike approach going forward. So that's the offense through the first month. On the pitching side of things, 20th in ERA, 17th in whip, 15th in batting average against, 20th in walk percentage, 16th in strikeout percentage. And we talk about runners in scoring position with the offense. The Rays pitching staff had the 11th lowest average with runners in scoring position, which is good. But on the whole, you look at this pitching staff, and it's a top 15 to top 20 pitching staff combined. Now, you break it down between starters and bullpen. Braves starters were 21st in ERA, 21st in whip, 24th in average against, 13th in walk rate, 17th in strikeout rate. And they actually had the 16th most starting pitcher innings by a starting pitcher, which I thought would be a lot higher. Probably be a lot lower. Forgive me. I expected that to be a lot lower because starting pitchers weren't going very deep into games early in the season, but they kind of turned that around in the second half. But again, you look at just the starting pitching, and it's more around again, 15 to 20th starting rotation in baseball. Not exactly where you expect the Braves to be. Expect them to be at least top 15, but they're pushing more around top 20. As for the bullpen, 17th in ERA, 11th in whip, 6th in average against, 23rd highest walk rate, 13th best strikeout rate. So you look at the bullpen, and it's actually been a top 15 staff. That's been better than expected, other than that walk rate that has been absolutely brutal. Now, there have been a couple of guys that have really elevated some of these numbers, and we'll get into more of that in the second segment here. But I think the bullpen has been a pretty nice surprise. They haven't been great, certainly, but for what many of us, myself included, thought to be the team's biggest weakness coming into the season, I think the bullpen has held its own. So again, that's probably been maybe my biggest surprise out of this so far, is that the bullpen has been better than I expected, and the starting rotation has been worse than I expected, even without Spencer Strider. But you lose, you get one start from Strider, you get one start from Ronaldo Lopez in the month of April. You kind of expect it, and with the slow start that Chris Sale has had, and you're going to see your starter numbers take a bit of a hit there. The Braves also were 26th in bullpen innings pitched, which again I found surprising because I thought the bullpen worked a good bit in the first month. But you're going to see that in the first month with starters not going quite as deep. But it feels like the Braves bullpen, especially early on, had to throw a lot of innings. But again, they've gotten better than that as Chris Sale has turned things around. Grant Holmes going deeper in the games. Bryce Elder's done a better job of that lately. Obviously, Spencer Schwellenbach, even in his bad outings, is usually giving you 6 innings. So that seems to be coming around a little bit. So those are your team numbers. Next, we're going to get into some individual performances from the month of April, some of your top performers and who disappointed us the most in the first month of the season, both on the hitting and pitching side. We'll get into all of that here next. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports, College Football, Call of Duty, MLB The Show, Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, you can do this on your Fire TV Stick 4K devices. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With Wi-Fi 6, 6E, and auto low latency mode advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. You already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Ultimate Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Thank you as always, making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. We got one more episode coming your way this week with our mailbag episode on Friday. Look for a post from LockedOn_Braves on X. Submit your questions to that post to be answered on our Friday mailbag podcast. Obviously, me and Lindsay will have the postcast coming your way this weekend for the Dodgers series, which we will preview later on in the podcast. But again, thanks for making us your first listen of the day. And when you're done here, go check out the guys over at Locked On MLB. Now, I went through the team stats. I wanted to go through the player stats as well. And I want to focus on the good. We will get into some of the negative, but you look at who led this team in hits. And if you follow me on at Shortstop Ball, you know where I'm about to go here. Austin Riley led the team in hits with 35, which is 6 more than Ozzie Albies, who had the next most on this team. And Michael Harris had the 3rd most hits at 27. Then you had Ozuna at 26, Olsen at 25, and Nick Allen with 21 hits. Now, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris all had some rough stretches in the first month of the season. Riley had one, found it, and now is back having another bit of a rough stretch. Ozzie, I thought he started out good. The second half has been bad. Michael Harris started out pretty bad, and then it's kind of found it on a late. But they're your top 3 hit leaders on the Braves staff. Now, the reason for that, we'll talk about in a second, but I think teams were noticing those guys were struggling, and they were pitching around some other guys in the lineup, and Ozuna and Olsen in particular, to get to those guys, with Ozzie and Michael Harris batting 5th and 6th in the order like you had a lot earlier in the year, and still with Ozzie in the month, and still with Ozzie later in the month. And teams were recognizing their slow starts and were pitching around Ozuna and Olsen a lot to get to them, I think. But they did get their hits at the end of the day. Now you look at batting average, Verdugo leads the team with a 341 average, followed by Eli White at 311 and Nick Allen at 292. So just like we all thought, the Braves' top 3 batting average leaders through the first month of the season, Alex Verdugo, Eli White, and Nick Allen. Obviously, short sample sizes for several of those guys there. Marcell Ozuna was fourth with a 283 mark, and Austin Riley at 280. So even with the ups and downs of the month for Riley, it was still a pretty solid month for him overall. You look at on-base percentage, Ozuna leads there with a 437 mark. That's fourth best in all of Major League Baseball by qualified hitters. Alex Verdugo at 396, Olsen at 374, Eli White at 367, and Sean Murphy at 357. OPS for the month, Sean Murphy led the way with a 990 OPS, Eli White second at 967, then Ozuna at 915, Verdugo at 851, and Riley at 787. Home runs, Murphy, your leader, despite starting the season on the injured list. He has 7 home runs already through the first month of the year. He's been a big boost since he came back. He doesn't look like a moose at all. He's been a big boost since coming back. Austin Riley has a second most with 6, then Ozuna with 5, and Albies and Olsen with 4 walks. Ozuna has 26. That is second most in all of Major League Baseball. Matt Olson has 23. That's ninth most in all of Major League Baseball. So like I talked about earlier, with both of those guys, they have really good eyes at the plate. And I think that's part of it. But again, I think the other part of it is that those two, I think, have been swinging the best bat. I know Olsen's results haven't always been there, but I think he's had the more consistent best at bats on this team, he and Ozuna. I think a lot of teams were kind of pitching around him when he's in that 4 spot with Ozzy and Michael Harris behind him and making those guys have to beat them. Stolen bases, Michael Harris was 6. Love seeing that from Michael Harris. I'd love to see him get 20, even 30 this year if he can, but he's off to a good start. Nick Allen with 5. Ozzy Albies with 4. Good. That too. He needs to be another guy that's at least at 20 steals this season. And Eli White with 2. I'd love to see him run a little bit more, but he's hitting so many extra base hits. He doesn't always have a chance to steal bases. Runners in scoring position, again, a stat we talked about a lot in the first month of the season. Alex Verdugo batted 600 with runners in scoring position, 12 plate appearances, so a very small sample size here. But he's coming up clutch in those spots and having some good at-bats. Eli White, 385 and 15 plate appearances. Austin Riley, 371 and 35 plate appearances with runners in scoring position. Sean Murphy, 294 and 19 plate appearances. And then you got Olsen and Albies at 250 and 19 and 25 plate appearances, respectively. So you see just in that, those two guys have been batting mostly 4th and 5th in the lineup. And Ozzy Albies has 6 more plate appearances this year with runners in scoring position than Matt Olson, because Matt Olson's taking a lot of walks, leaving it to Ozzy to come through in those situations. Now, neither of those guys have been great. I mean, 250 is not a terrible average with runners in scoring position, but you can see that discrepancy that Ozzy is continually coming up in those big spots because Matt Olson, one, is patient, has a good eye, and he'll take his walk. And I think teams are going to make Ozzy beat them right now. Really, the only 2 hitters that you look at that were truly disappointing in the month were Ozzy and Michael Harris. And even Michael Harris came around a bit at the end, but they had OPSs of 664 and 614, respectively, and not great, certainly not their standards. You're going to have guys who are going to have bad months, and to have a month where really just 2 guys had a disappointing month, I think you can live with that. Now, when you pair that with Jared Kelenic and Brian De La Cruz, who had a 531 and a 453 OPS on the month, and that makes it look and feel a lot worse. But replacing those 2 with Verdugo and Eli White have been a big boost to this offense. Now, I can't say boost anymore because all I'm thinking about are moose. So, but for your regulars, Ozzy and Michael Harris, the only ones that truly disappointed. Now, Riley's 41 strikeouts are second most in Major League Baseball, and that is rough. Again, the numbers are there for Austin Riley. 6 home runs on the month, a 787 OPS, 6 home runs, like I said, 280 average, 35 hits, leading the team. The numbers were all there for Austin Riley, but a lot of strikeouts for him. And when he was bad in this month, he was really bad and looked completely lost at the plate and striking out almost every time he went up there. He's got to be more consistent, and he's got to do a better job of, when he is off like that, he's able to make the change to get it back rather quickly. And it can't drag on for 3, 4, 5 games at a time, as it seems to do if you're going to be the Braves' number 2, number 3 hitter. He's got to be more consistent. And again, that's something he's talked about a lot through the years. On the starting pitching side of things. Chris Sale, 7 starts, a 4.84 ERA, a 1.42 whip. Obviously not numbers we're expecting to see from Chris Sale, but he did continually get better. It took him longer than I would have hoped to really get back to where he needs to be, but it feels like he's at that point now. 35 and a third innings pitched, 46 strikeouts, 7th most in Major League Baseball, so he's still getting the strikeouts, 9 walks, a little bit high for him in 35 and a third innings, a 285 average against. I didn't include BABIP in here because I know a lot of you don't want to hear about luck and bad luck, but I would imagine his batting average on balls in play is extremely high. As for Spencer Schwellenbach, 6 games started at 287 ERA, a 0.98 whip, 37 and 2/3 innings, 33 strikeouts, only 6 walks, and a 220 batting average against. So really good numbers for Spencer Schwellenbach. He's probably your pitcher of the month for the Braves. Grant Holmes, 6 games, 5 starts, a 4.50 ERA, a 1.25 whip, 28 innings, 26 strikeouts, 17 walks, 184 batting average against, though. That's 8th. That would have been 8th best had he qualified. He didn't quite have the innings to qualify, but that would be 8th best. The one big outlier there for Grant Holmes are the walks. If he can get the walks down, I think there's maybe a little bit more for Grant Holmes. But, 4.50 ERA, 1.25 whip as your 4th starter, you can live with that for Grant Holmes. AJ Smith-Shawver, 4 starts, a 4.26 ERA, a 1.68 whip, 19 innings, 22 strikeouts, a solid, 9 walks, a 3.03 batting average against, though. Giving up a few too many hits there, but overall, 4.26 ERA, that's not bad, but a 1.68 whip. You certainly want to see that come down. And then Bryce Elder, 5 starts, a 5.33 ERA, a 1.41 whip, 27 innings already from Bryce Elder, only 16 strikeouts, but not a strikeout pitcher, 10 walks, okay for Bryce Elder's standards, a 267 average against. Kind of with Grant Holmes, now that ERA needs to come down, needs to be below 5, but not terrible for your 5th starter. I think for most teams, 4th and 5th starters, Grant Holmes, the numbers you're getting from Grant Holmes and Bryce Elder are okay. Now, in this month, you got 1 start from Strider, 1 start from Ronaldo Lopez, and 1 start from Scott Blewett in a bullpen game. So, again, you need Strider to get back and be healthy. You hate that you lost Lopez, but I think the guys have filled in fine. It was certainly a survival month for this rotation. You'd love to see them kind of get on a roll, stay healthy for a stretch so that everybody's, staying in rotation and going deep into ball games. I think there's more for this rotation going forward. As for the bullpen, rough month for Raisel Iglesias, 11 innings, a 5.73 ERA, just a 1.09 whip, but 5 home runs. And we've talked about Raisel Iglesias a lot, leaving pitches up in the zone, and they're getting absolutely hammered. He's got to figure that out, whether it's mechanical, whatever the case may be. He's got to get his pitches back down in the zone. Daysbel Hernandez, probably your reliever of the month, 13 and a third innings, a 2.03 ERA, a 0.90 whip, 9 strikeouts. Need to see those strikeouts come up for Daysbel. 6 walks, 6 hits against, but he's been fantastic. Dylan Lee was as well, 12 and a third innings, 2.19 ERA, 0.89 whip, 10 strikeouts, 5 walks, 6 hits allowed. Pierce Johnson quietly with a good month. The uses for him this month was a bit odd, but 11 and a third innings, 3.18 ERA, 1.06 whip, 13 strikeouts, only 4 walks, 8 hits against. Those are your top 4 arms pretty easily, I think, right now. And Iglesias, Daysbel, Lee, and Pierce Johnson. A starter goes 5 plus, 6 innings. Those are the 4 arms you're going to look to close things out. Eniel De Los Santos had some ups and downs. I still think that stuff is good. It's just he has trouble landing that slider consistently. 13 and a third innings, a 4.73 ERA, a 1.20 whip, 14 strikeouts, 4 walks, 12 hits against. Aaron Bummer, 11 and a third innings, 4.76 ERA, 1.32 whip, 14 strikeouts, 5 walks, and 10 hits. Rafael Montero, a 6 and a third innings, a 4.26 ERA, 2.05 whip. That's because he walked 8 batters and gave up 5 hits, but 7 strikeouts in those 6 and a third. Small sample size for Scott Blewett, but I've been pretty impressed. This isn't including his game as an opener when he started, but 2 and a third innings out of the bullpen, just 1 hit, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. And I talked earlier about the bullpen numbers looking a little inflated because of 2 guys in particular, and you're going to have outings like this from guys you aren't counting on throughout the year. And that's why looking at bullpen numbers overall, team-wise can be a bit misleading. Hector Neris and Nathan Wiles combined to give up 8 runs on 9 hits and one walk in 2 innings pitched. And that's kind of hurting the Braves team numbers overall for the bullpen. But again, like I said earlier, I have been pretty impressed with what the bullpen has done so far. I know Iglesias had a rough month, but Dayswell's looked good. Dylan Lee's looked good. Johnson's looked good. De Los Santos has had his moments. Bummer's had his moments. Montero even had some big moments, especially early on when he came over. Now he might be the next man gone out of this, but he has certainly had some moments. There's questions in there, sure. I don't know that I feel great taking this bullpen into a potential postseason series, and there's going to have to be some additions made. But I feel like they've held their own and done better than I probably would have expected. And now next, I want to preview the month of May coming up. There's a chance for the Braves in the middle of that month to really get on a roll and get up over 500, and hopefully that will happen. We'll preview May here next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you can stop managing your money and start building your wealth. Doesn't that sound nice? Managing your money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Somebody's been married for a while. Let me tell you, money can be a stressful topic and situation, but not with Monarch Money, as they're going to help you set goals, boundaries, so that you're both on the same page. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Now, the first month of the season we knew could be a bit difficult, and really the first half of the season overall might be a little bit challenging for the Atlanta Braves. The second half after the All-Star break certainly seems to be more favorable. You got a tough stretch to begin the month of May as you face the Dodgers and Reds, but they are both at home. And then you have a stretch that the Braves really need to take advantage of. When the Braves were really down in the month of April, and somebody asked me, when do you see the Braves getting to 500, over 500? I said in the middle of May, because of this 10-game stretch that the Braves have. You have the Pirates, Nats, Red Sox, and Nationals. So it's really a 13-game stretch, but there's 10 games in there between the Nats and the Pirates that you really have to take advantage of and win those games. And I think it's at that point that we see the Braves finally get over 500, hopefully give themselves a little bit of a cushion and get on a roll, playing good baseball, winning series consecutively like they're doing right now. So the middle of the month is pretty favorable for the Atlanta Braves, and they need to take advantage of that, because the end of the month, you got the Padres at home, you got the Phillies on the road, and then you got the Red Sox at home. So it is a pretty tough beginning and end to the month, but in the middle there is a chance for the Braves to go 8-2 and have a really good stretch, get themselves over 500 and even a few games over 500. Now let's quickly preview the weekend series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are 21-10 on the season. They swept the Braves in LA 6-1, 3-1, and 6-5. So some close games in there. Certainly felt like all those games to begin the season were close, and the Braves just couldn't get that big hit. I'm curious to see how this offense operates now, because there was certainly an approach change at the beginning of the year that they were struggling with. They seemed to kind of get on board with it, but against lower competition. Now, how do they do facing the Dodgers for a second time? Holmes, Sell, and Elder pitched in that first series. This time it'll be Holmes, Schwellenbach, and Elder. So you get one of your top starters in the middle game of this series once again, while on the outside of that, you're getting your fourth and fifth starter. After losing 3 in a row, the Dodgers have won their last 5 and just swept the Marlins. Those 3 losses were 11-10 and 7-6 losses to the Cubs, who are really good with a good offense. And their other loss there was to Paul Skeens. Miguel Rojas swinging the bat well lately at .538 average in his last 6 games. Andy Pages, he's heated up. He has 4 home runs in his last 10. Teoscar Hernandez, Freddie Freeman, and Ohtani are all swinging the bat well over the last 2 weeks. Meanwhile, Mookie Betts and Will Smith have been struggling over that stretch. Pitching matchups in this one, Yamamoto against Grant Holmes. Yamamoto might be the Cy Young favorite through the first month of the season. We'll see if he gets pitcher of the month. He's been amazing. He's yet to give up more than 5 hits in an outing. He's yet to give up more than 2 earned runs in an outing. He's already had strikeout games of 9, 10, and 10. So that's going to be a very difficult matchup for the Braves on Friday night. On Saturday, it's Roki Sasaki versus Spencer Schwellenbach. Sasaki has gotten better, but he's yet to complete 6 innings, or he's completed it just once. He's walked at least a few batters in all of his outings, but that has gotten better for him. It was a real struggle to begin the season. This game Saturday feels like the best chance for the Braves to win if Schwellenbach is on. He's been getting hit hard lately, though, so it makes me a bit nervous going up against the Dodgers. But if that Braves offense can be patient, if they can put the ball in play against Sasaki, I think they got a good chance of winning that one. And then in the finale, it's Dustin May versus Bryce Elder. May got off to a really good start, but then he had a disastrous start against the Cubs 2 starts ago, and then he gave up 3 runs to the Marlins his last time out. So maybe the team's starting to figure him out a little bit. Still great stuff. We saw it out in L.A. So these are going to be some tough games, some tough pitching matchups for sure for the Atlanta Braves. Now, some news on the day. Ian Anderson cleared waivers and will go to Gwinnett. So the Braves can continue to try to work with him now at the minor league level and get him on track. Brian De La Cruz was claimed by the Yankees. I didn't even realize that he was put off the 40-man roster, as he has options left, but they must have just completely taken him off the 40-man roster, and I missed that. But the Yankees claimed him. There are now 2 open spots on the 40-man roster. The Braves bring back Jesse Chavez and Zach Thompson on minor league deals, so more depth for the pitching staff at the minor league level. So that's your news from the day. But the Braves will be back in action Friday night against the Dodgers. I'll have a mailbag podcast for you on Friday afternoon, and then me and Lindsay will be back on the postcast Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I believe it's Sunday night baseball this weekend as well. So you'll look for the postcast from me and Lindsay over on Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta. That will do for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks to Jamie C. Cards, Jackson09, Jeffrey Humphreys, Braves Thrills here from beginning to end. Thank you so much. Jeff Barry in here as well. Cherith Bandwagon. Thank you all for joining me here on today's live episode of Locked On Braves. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Hit the thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.